Hello, KZOOMers.
Hey, we missed you last week.
We missed you.
We did. So it's great to see you, all our dear friends.
Take a look around the KZOOM room to connect up with all of these beloveds.
All over the world.
So today, March 10th, marks the 2-year anniversary of KZOOM. 2 years, March 10th, 2020. And March 10th, 2020, I was here in San Diego, and this strange thing was coming down.
Like that was the day that they labeled it, the World Health Organization labeled it a pandemic. That was
I didn't even know. It was just like this feeling of like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was.
And my first impulse was like, we need to get together. We need to
gather the community.
We need to practice, because whenever I face a spiritual challenge, and that felt like such a spiritual challenge, my first impulse is like, okay, I need to do my practice. And to be able to gather together others to do the practice together. And I sent out just a letter to the KZ alumni list that said, we got to get together. We have to do some practice. And there was maybe 50 people who showed up for it. I was thought, okay, other people feel the same way as I do. And then I said, this is open, just let other people know about this, whoever you want, because people said, well, can I bring my friend, or can my...
Well, then after the quarantine, after the shutdown, then everybody was, at home, said, well, my spouse is here, my partner's here, so, well, bring them, and it's like, well, let's bring everybody.
So anyway,
everybody that wants
the KZOOM words spread, and just looking back at these last 2 years, it's just been such an important anchor to be able to see your faces and to imagine your voices, to practice together and to feel the energy of the group and our intentions. So and the world does not have a deficit of challenges. They come one after another. It seems to be part of the human curriculum that these challenges arise, and we want to meet them and not shut down and not go to places of despair or isolation, but to be able to use the treasures of our tradition in order to
shore
connect
us up and connect us.
So I want, the name of this class has to do with the, yay. So we're here with Rhonda and David.
San
Diego. So that's great. And so the first practice that I want to do really kind of brought the theme of this KZOOM to me. And it came through a kind of a strange word play. The words that says kahut hashani siftotayich naveh, and so we're talking. This is love talk, and we're saying your lips like a scarlet ribbon, and then there's this word midbarech. And midbarech is translated often as your voice or your mouth, or the place that speech comes through you. That opening of speech.
Stupid. Yeah.
So,
but also.
But the word midbarech. Stop it.
Go away.
The word midbarech also means your wilderness. So so literally it's saying your lips are like a scarlet ribbon, and your wilderness. Wow, I just love that wilderness of you. So it's kind of an amazing line, and so I added. So I thought, what is the voice that comes in the wilderness? It's the voice of revelation, really. Like, this is the story of our people, is that revelation happens in those between places in the wilderness. It happens on the way. And, it's not just about getting to the promised land. It's about what happens during the journey of transformation. How do we open to this phenomenon of revelation, that we are formed by the wilderness. And there's I'm going to come back to this quote again, but in Bamidbar Rabbah, which is a book of midrash about the wilderness journeys, it says, if one cannot make oneself open and ownerless, like this desert, like this wilderness, one can acquire neither wisdom nor Torah. So it's impossible to acquire wisdom or Torah unless you make yourself like the wilderness, which is open, spacious. And what does it mean to be ownerless? Sort of like not beholding to anything, like we are, sort of cut loose in that wilderness, in a place of utter vulnerability, and that is when God finds us. So this week I've been stepping into the wilderness as much as possible to be able to listen to that voice, and the voice of the wilderness that calls me to my own wilderness, calls me to that place of vastness within me, and the place that is cannot be civilized, really, cannot be tamed. And so I want to chant these words as a way of just dreaming ourselves into that wilderness place. And the English words that I add to it, says, your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. So a lot of what I think of as the Song of Songs is about feeling ourselves called to a greater reality and responding to that call, because we live in this kind of a small world that we construct, but there is a big world that is calling us, and we need that perspective of the big world, or else we get lost, we get stuck, we get constricted in what we have created. So let's try this practice as a way of liberating ourselves and opening, becoming ownerless and open.
hashani siftotayich umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh hashani siftotayich umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Kerchut hashani siftotayich umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh. Kerchut hashani siftotayich umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Kerchut hashani siftotayich umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh. Kerchut hashani siftotayich umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh umitbarek naveh. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. beauty and power are my mystery. KZOOM, hashani, siftotayich, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh. KZOOM, hashani, siftotayich, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. KZOOM, hashani, siftotayich, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh. KZOOM, hashani, siftotayich, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh, umibarek naveh. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery. Your voice in the wilderness calls out to me. Your beauty and power are my mystery.
Let's take a moment to imagine just diving into the darkness within us. Just close your eyes, and with the next breath, just dive into that darkness in front of you, that mystery. That spacious, wild, unknown place. And our key command is Shema, listen. So it's a listening, not just out here, but inside listening. So as we step into that wilderness, the challenge is to be able to see. I mean, not only listen, but also to see what's in front of us. And you know, yesterday, Rachmel and I went to the Vincent Van Gogh immersive
exhibit.
Judy was there too, and you know what struck me is like it's this way of stepping inside of the vision of Van Gogh.
Yeah, his actual name was Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. Yes.
Van Gogh.
So to stepping inside, to be able to see, and to see in a way that where the aliveness of the world, comes into us, and there becomes no separation between our own aliveness and the aliveness of the world. There's a scholar named Evan Eisenberg who talked about what the ancient Israelites, how they perceived the world. And he said God is not outside nature so much as unfathomably deep within it, the essence of nature. It's unfathomably deep within it, the essence of nature. And so how do we receive that essence, which I think is this kind of aliveness that then sparks that aliveness inside us, and then our perception of the world can change. And I'm always looking at that, how does a sacred text change my perception? And I remember one time studying Kabbalah with Rabbi Art Green, and I sat in a classroom and stared out the window, and I listened to him teach Kabbalah. But really what I was paying attention to was how the words of Kabbalah might change the vision of what I saw outside my window. And it was an amazing experience. He probably thought I was just like spacing out, but I was like taking, I was receiving it and saying the point of the sacred text is to change, to transform our perception so that we can see, we can see God, we can experience God. And so this practice I want to do, it's, I call it Unveil My Eyes. Gal aynai ve'abita. If only those veils weren't there, I would be able to see what's in front of me. And gal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot. And what's in front of me is miraculous. And then gal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot mitoratecha. And it's sort of like a way of looking at the world as Torah. And it's really that we step into a path of learning from everything and everyone. Everything becomes our teacher, and everyone, every color, every breeze comes in order to teach, to transform, to pleasure us. It's like taking it in, becoming receptive. So I, whenever I do a practice like this, I always want to say, like, well, what is it that veils? What is it that veils my eyes? Why am I? Because every once in a while I get that glimpse, and I say, well, why?
Why were they veiled?
Where was I? What's veil? And I think mostly it's because I'm sort of in my head thinking about stuff. That's a lot of the veils to me, is that I'm not totally present to what's in front of me because I'm trying to figure stuff out and planning for the future. I'm thinking about the past. I'm trying to figure the world out somehow with the wrong faculty. Mm-hmm. And if I would come, the moment I come into my heart and just perceive, then that need to figure it all out, it sort of becomes irrelevant, So, to the idea of seeing the mystery that is embedded, that, that unfathomably deep place within everything. So let's, before we do the practice, I just invite you to look and see, like, what's your veil? What is your veil? What is it that keeps you from presence, from miracle, from, being here? If you want to put it in the chat, you can, if something comes to you, you can do that. Sometimes it's like an anxiety,
Pain.
becomes a
Physical pain.
pain. That
Fear,
worry. So, did anybody put anything in the chat? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Old family stories.
Yes.
Need to analyze everything's old habits. Forgetting. Malaise. 2, planning, protection, old scripts, my story, obsessiveness, anxiety, unexpressed anger, powerlessness. So, cruelty in the world, yeah, just sometimes feeling defeated, What?
At the end of that Kerkut chant, I swallowed a bug when I inhaled.
Oh no.
But I carried on. I chanted anyway.
You said.
Me and the bug.
So let's see if we can, just with putting these veils on the altar of the chant, we do practice to make a commitment to be able to, and sometimes we only get a glimpse, but that glimpse then can guide us through our wilderness. That glimpse is something we lift up, we share, we express it, and it becomes this compass point for us, our Torah, really. Let's see.
yabiya nifla'ot, aynai yabiya nifla'ot mitoratecha. Aynai, 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 oh aynai, aynai yabiya. נפלאות מתורתך. קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, או קל עיניי. קל עיניי והביטה, קל עיניי והביטה נפלאות. קל עיניי והביטה נפלאות מתורתך. קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, או קל עיניי. קל עיניי והביטה, קל עיניי נפלאות, קל עיניי והביטה נפלאות מתורתך. קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, או קל עיניי. קל עיניי והביטה, קל עיניי והביטה נפלאות, קל עיניי והביטה נפלאות מתורתך. קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, קל עיניי, או קל עיניי. קל עיניי והביטה, קל nifla'ot, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot mitoratecha. Kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, oh kal aynai. Kal aynai ve'abita, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot mitoratecha. Kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, oh kal aynai. Kal aynai ve'abita, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot mitoratecha. Kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, oh kal aynai. Kal aynai ve'abita, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot, kal aynai ve'abita nifla'ot mitoratecha. Kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, kal aynai, oh kal aynai. Kal aynai, kal aynai.
So we make a commitment to that open, ownerless place of the wilderness, a commitment to our own spaciousness, and also take those moments of glimpses and lift them up, honor them, share them, use them as a compass. There's Yesterday I walked in the wilderness and I scared a jackrabbit.
Which scared you?
It scared me too.
Everybody screamed.
It was big. It was big and it was wearing boxing gloves. It was big.
Like in the cartoons.
But it was really big. But just this like like whenever I have any kind of encounter like that, it's just like brings this kind of aliveness. Like what's the Torah? Jackrabbit Torah. So the way that Torah comes into us is sometimes in these flashes, this jackrabbit kind of flashes, and sometimes it comes in a much more subtle way with just the quality of the light as it changes and our attention on that light. I think it's really important that the way that the Talmud begins, Talmud Brachot begins, is really by saying how do we know when to say the Shema, and in the morning, and then there's some different answers that say, that talk about the light, really about the quality of light that tells us that the day is here, and when is the right exact moment. And so our ancestors paid attention to that light as it was changing, and at a time of Mariv, it's Marav isn't like the light that you just turn the light off. Marav means the mixing of light and dark. And so that's kind of what happens, is that there are these subtleties to pay attention to. And out of it, wisdom comes. So I want to just say that, before we do our next chant, that Maimonides from the Mishnah Torah says, he asks, what is the way that will lead to a proper love and awe of God? When you contemplate God's great, wondrous works and creatures, and from them obtain a glimpse of the divine wisdom. But that's the method. But this verse from Psalm 19 really, to me, kind of represented something about the subtlety of how that wisdom comes to us through nature. And it says yom l'yom. It's like day after day. Yom l'yom yabiya omer. It's there's a message that comes forth in the passage of time from day to day. V'layla l'layla, and from night to night. Yechaveh da'at. That somehow knowledge is conveyed through the passing from night to night, from day to day. And it feels to me like it's saying, like, trust this process of wisdom, of knowledge emerging through the passage of time, through, it's like, be patient, be attentive, that the changes that are happening, that through that day to day, night to night, keeping on going kind of energy, something gets transformed in us, something is awakened through it, but we have to pay attention to it. It's a kind of a more subtle kind of wisdom that emerges out of life lived. And it's like it's a surprise, it's a miracle that it happens. So I want to just tune into that aspect of how we grow without even knowing it, like the flowers opening. Yom Yom yabiya omer v'layla l'layla yichaveh da'at Yom Yom yabiya omer v'layla l'layla yichaveh da'at Yom l'yom yabiya omer layla 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 l'layla yichaveh da'at Yom l'yom yabiya, omer, layla, layla, yom, 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 yabiya, omer, layla, layla, I want to just take a moment to look into your wilderness. If we're going to say that, to understand like how to do that in relationship. If you were to take a look around the KZOOM room and to say, oh, look at this wilderness.
Each face a distinct and different wilderness.
that there's an there's an infinity, there's a mystery, even though we think we might know each other, there's things that we haven't yet fathomed, and just the unfathomably deep places within that we haven't discovered in ourselves. We get to to kind of be curious about with each other, like I just look at Rachmiel sometimes, like,
who is that guy?
Are you? Who are you?
I sometimes ask myself the same question.
Where is that?
In my wilderness.
Your wilderness. How does that change the way we relate to each other?
In Australia, it's out in the bush. Outback, or the bush.
The bush. So, this journey of the wilderness, that we celebrate our holidays along that mark moments along that journey, and on Pesach we celebrate the kind of like the setting off into wilderness, the place of becoming, going into that ownerless place, that open ownerless place that where we acquire Torah, really, in that place. And on Sukkot, we also, acknowledge this kind of wilderness place in us that is so fragile and so kind of changeable and ephemeral, and that we put up the sukkah and the wind blows it down. It's like this, and we look through the leaves, the branches of the sukkah, and look out into the wilderness of the cosmos. And on Shavuot, we open to the revelation that comes when we become ownerless and vulnerable and open in that wilderness place. So I just wanted this is a little plug for a retreat that I'm teaching on with John Guttison, who is a wilderness man. He and I are teaching a wilderness retreat on Shavuot to go receive Torah in southern Colorado, in a beautiful wilderness place. So
first week
if
of June.
if you feel called, the first week of June, that's happening. So I want to end with this place of majesty, and to sort of saying, how do we take all of that majesty in us and through us? And there are these words in that come in the Aleinu prayer that says "L'takein olam," which is I translate, it's healing the world. So healing the world. I mean, we all are doing our part. We're all taking one little part of what that project is of healing the world, which is so much in need of our attention. And we're saying, well, how do we do that? And the text says b'malchut Shaddai, which I learned this translation from Rabbi Arthur Waskow, through the Majesty of Nurture. And so the Shaddai is a name of God that comes from an ancient, allusion to breasts, to the mountains being like breasts, and so to say b'malchut Shaddai is the Majesty of Nurture, and so to take that glory of nature and move it through us into the world as our love, as our care, as is what the best in us that we bring to the world. That's what's going to heal the world. And it's just a moment-to-moment thing to be able to be in that place of feeling ourselves part of nature, but sort of taking that glory and great energy of nature, refining it in the heart and putting it out through us in a way that is nurture, that is love, that is compassion. So I want to end with this practice, and with a sense of like the intention is really to take all of that wilderness and have it reflected inside us as a great divine power that is in us to fulfill this destiny of becoming healers together of the world. So there's a couple different parts to the chant. You can choose whatever you want to chant, and see if and maybe before we chant, just close your eyes and imagine the most majestic place that you've ever been. And take that majesty into your voice, into your vision, into your presence, and allow it to come out as this healing chant. L'takein olam b'malchut Shaddai. 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 L'takein L'takein olam b'malchut Shaddai. 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 invite us all to connect up with the web of transformation, to know that we're each, as we each find that wilderness, and the power of it, and the majesty of it, we are moving it through us as our love, connecting up with all the other great light workers of the world who are doing the same work, each in our own way. So lifting each other up.
Got all three of us can come in. It was so wonderful to have more voices for our KZOOM here. With Rhonda up here with us and David.
So, it's so good to see everybody again. We'll be
here next week.
KZOOMing from the beach next week. And it will be the hangover of Purim. It'll be
the day after Purim.
Will be like the evening after Purim. So hopefully all of that joy of Purim will still be in us as we come to KZOOM next week. And it's so wonderful to be together. And I invite those people also who are watching this later to go to the website, give a little donation to keep this going.
Yeah,
we should keep going, right? We should just keep doing this, right?
2 years and going on year 3. Let's do it. All right.
Yeah. Who knew?
We'll
Who
be here.
knew? Oh, yeah. And
Well, you're
David,
like our congregation.
You are
holy
our holy congregation. We're so grateful to you.
Yeah.